Hi, my name is Matt from Public Sector Personnel Consultants. Our firm has been selected to assist the city with a classification and compensation study. Thank you for viewing this video. We wanted to provide an overview and highlight your opportunities to participate in the study. It's supposed to be very exciting news, so we're looking forward to getting started and moving fairly quickly. As our name suggests, this is all that we do. We're a third party that performs salary surveys, benefit studies, and rewrites job descriptions for maybe 50 to 60 cities, schools, colleges, counties, special districts every year throughout the United States. We do quite a bit of work in the state of Texas. We've had a chance to work with just over 100 different public employers in Texas, including some nearby neighbors, a lot of other cities, some special districts, as I mentioned, a couple of colleges and universities around the Houston area as well. All that qualifies us to do is ask good questions. What factors influence your city's ability to recruit and to retain staff? The project can really be broken up into two major phases. First, the review of all of your job descriptions, which requires your input. We want to ensure when we do a salary survey that we make our job comparisons up against other cities and other employers based on what you actually do. So this is an opportunity that maybe hasn't been afforded to you in the last 10 years or so to review your job description, write down what you do when you're at work. That'll give us an opportunity to answer some key questions. Does your job title make sense? Is your job description up to date and an accurate reflection of what you do when you're at work? The compensation study will also answer a couple of questions. What is the market going rate for your job? We'll be able to answer that position by position. I'll talk about that in just a little bit more detail as well. Globally, these studies are done really to ensure that your city is offering a competitive wage, that you're offering and being intentional with your salary and benefit budgeting, but also to make sure that, like I said, your job description is accurate and up to date so that when we post a vacancy or when we talk about the market rate for each position, you've had a chance to review that. The classification study is really going to start with you viewing this video, your opportunity to fill out a questionnaire. An email will go out that will allow you to start a position analysis questionnaire. We'll call that a PAQ. That document follows a job description format. It allows you to answer some questions and write down what you do when you are at work. That allows us to answer some questions to honor our contract with the city. Are our job descriptions up to date? Do job titles make sense? Are we consistent with how we use titles like specialist, technician, coordinator, manager? Where needed, we might create some new jobs. We may update some job descriptions. There may be 10 of you with the same job title, but if you're doing different things, we may split that job into 2 or more jobs where needed. The PAQ will go out. A link will create an opportunity for you to complete a PAQ. These are available as a web-based document. They are also available as a Word document or to print out and fill out kind of longhand in hard copy. These are questionnaires that you are encouraged to work on them as a group. So if there are 3 to 4 or 5 of you doing the same work and you want to fill out one group questionnaire, it is the job that we're studying, not you, the individual. We do want to create these opportunities so that everyone has a chance to fill out a questionnaire. You're welcome to do that individually or, as I mentioned, as part of a group. If you are in public safety and there's 10 or 15 police officers or something like that, we don't necessarily need a questionnaire from every officer or every firefighter. I do want those audiences to tell us, like when we make those market comparisons, an officer is an officer or not. So I do want to be cautious, but effectively we're not going to be changing job titles within that paramilitary structure within police and within fire. So work with your command staff to talk about the study. Your jobs are included. We're going to be surveying those positions out in the market, but I will leave it up to you all in terms of those job classifications where there's 10 or 15 of you with the same job and the same job title. I don't necessarily need a questionnaire from each and every one of you. The questionnaires, again, are something that will take probably an hour to 2 hours. We want you to have city time to work on them. So work with your supervisors and managers. You're going to be afforded about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, to be looking at these questionnaires. And the content that we get back will flow really into and through all of the deliverables that we will have to provide to the city as a result of the study. Once we get those questionnaires back, we'll be able to look at your job duties and we'll be able to pull job descriptions from the market. Traditionally, the market is defined as cities that are around us, other employers that are around us, both public and private, that might have jobs in common. As employees, certainly I want to be sensitive to where else might you be able to go do your job without changing the kid's school district or without selling your house or that kind of thing. What is that kind of market? So geographically, these are likely to be other cities within maybe a half an hour or an hour. There may be some cities that are a little bit smaller, a little bit bigger, but ultimately we want to try and identify maybe 10, 12, 15 agencies that we can go collect their salary plans, collect their job descriptions, their organization charts or budget documents, and then job by job, we'll build out a salary survey. Effectively, we'll be able to answer two big questions. How are we doing, or where are we in the market for each position that we have at the city? And then answer some kind of follow-up really towards budget planning. And that is, if we're not where we want to be, if we've fallen behind market, how do we get back to market? If we need to make adjustments to salary ranges, the study will identify that. If we need to make adjustments to actual salaries, the study will identify that. A couple of other probably key points to get out at this stage. This is something that the city wants to do for you, not to you. This is meant to be a very positive, transparent thing that public agencies undertake, I would say every 5 to 7 years, maybe 10 years on the outside. It sounds like it's been about 10 years since your city has done something like this. So it is a great opportunity to, again, take seriously that questionnaire that will allow us to answer some of these how are we doing in the market questions. Now, some common outcomes. We may clean up some job titles. Maybe you have some positions that you haven't used for a while. I mentioned earlier, we might split one job title out into 2 or more jobs to create different job descriptions, job titles, pay grades. So if there are 5 or 10 of you with the same title, but you're not doing the same things, we want to learn that through this study. The opposite can also be true. We may merge 2 jobs together to ensure equal pay for equal work. So if you're doing the same thing as someone in another department, but you have a different job title, a different pay rate, a different pay grade, we may propose merging those jobs together if they are similar enough. When we react to the market, we're going to react job by job. That's a little bit different than the annual budget process. The study itself is rarely the mechanism that everyone sees a salary adjustment. But position by position, let's say we have some jobs that survey pretty good compared to market. That's wonderful news. That means that you've been historically paid really competitively or close to market average. We may also find that some positions have fallen behind market. If we need to, we can identify those positions that are low. Ideally, we have a similar relationship to market for all jobs when we are done. So I don't want some positions to be at 85% of average and other positions to be at 100% of average. But if we need to move some jobs around on your current pay table or design a new pay table, the punchline and the goal generally is we want all jobs to have a similar relationship to market. Now, the moment that I move your pay range, some questions should start to get asked because really 90% of this is a paper exercise. Again, reviewing job descriptions, conducting that salary survey in the market, looking at pay range placements. But the moment that it becomes a people exercise is if I move your salary range, do I move your salary? I'm sensitive to not paying a 3 or a 5 or a 7-year employee at the bottom of his or her pay range if we can avoid it. So I do want to make sure that if we see some pay range movement as a result of the study, we present some options to council and their designees around how to budget and adapt and react to reestablish market competitiveness also for our salaries. So again, if we move your range, we might move your pay. Don't expect a big windfall, simply as a result of the study. That's pretty rare. But ultimately, none of what we're going to do replaces the annual budget process either. Now, we're going to try and get done with this work by June or July when the city plans and does their budget. But I wouldn't expect the study itself to replace the annual conversation around, hey, were we going to budget for a cost of living adjustment or a general increase or a step increase or an overall pay adjustment. Those things tend to continue on an annual basis. And then we do studies like these periodically to ensure that we're in the sweet spot. We're in that spot where we're able to recruit, we're able to retain, and we're really knowledgeable with data around where we want to position ourselves. I didn't mention it yet, but we're also going to be looking at benefits. Things that maybe the city pays on your behalf, like health insurance contributions, pension contributions, what is offered for paid time off, certification pay and ad pay. We can also look at those to identify, hey, both pay and benefits, how are we doing compared to market? Lastly, on this slide, really, if we find that the city is low compared to market, we probably didn't get low or fall behind all at once. It might take a couple of budget years to also catch up. So we'll be in a position and completely in bounds for us as a third party to recommend some options that would allow the city to implement our study findings and recommendations. If we can't do that all at once, that's really, really common. We may come up with a multi-year plan to move the city back to market or back to that adopted philosophy or strategy in relation to market. As I mentioned, an email will go out really as part of this video. Pay attention, there's a lot of language on that email document within the body of that email, but effectively there's going to be some instructions in there that will allow you to start a new PAQ. The link that goes out in that first email will only allow you to start a new PAQ. If you get 3 pages in and you come back to it later, the system, our system, will send you an email that says, hey, we recognize you. Click here to pick back up on page 3 or page 4. So I'll mention that again because that's the one kind of nuance with making these kind of web-based. The email will also have a Word version of the PAQ attached to it. So if you work out in the field and you don't feel like sitting in front of a computer to do the questionnaire, totally fine. But get with your coworkers, get with your crew leaders, your foremen, your supervisors, and work through this questionnaire. Even have one person write it up if you'd like and have everybody sign it. Again, group questionnaires are great. Police and fire don't necessarily need to fill out a questionnaire, but I do want to make sure that when we make those comparisons, if there's anything that we need to hear about or know about, let us know. So we'll be working with your leadership on and through the study to make sure that when we identify market, we make comparisons, that we're looking at things correctly, kind of rank for rank. Any nuances there we'll learn along the way. After submitting the questionnaire, nobody will change it, right? So what you give us on this questionnaire, if you do it online, will be a PDF. You will get a PDF of that questionnaire back. Your supervisor will get notified with a PDF that says, hey, your employee completed a questionnaire, click here to add comments. Paper copy, same thing. Nobody's going to change what you give us on these questionnaires. We've set aside really until April 25th for you to review and complete a questionnaire. Departments will have until May 5th to review and add comments to those. The questionnaire itself has been pre-populated, so you'll start to see some drop-down menus where you can find yourself by department, by job title, by name. It will pre-populate your name, your job title, your email address. So just click there. If anything is incorrect, you can overwrite it right on this screen. Your supervisor's name and job title and email will come up. Again, if anything is incorrect, you can overwrite it. If you're working on it as a group, you can select that and start to tag some coworkers to say, hey, there's 3 or 4 or 5 of us that are working on this questionnaire. What you'll notice on my screenshot is some blue back and next bars there, kind of towards the bottom. Use those as you navigate through the online questionnaire. So again, once you get this email, view the video, start in on an online questionnaire. That link that comes out first will only allow you to start up a new PAQ. After that, you will start to see an option once you fill in a couple of pages that you can save and continue later. And again, that system will send you a new email. It'll be from Survey Gizmo or Survey Alchemer. So we'll look at that and work with your IT folks or contractors there to make sure that there's no spam filter issues or anything like that. Remember what the questionnaire is for. It follows a traditional job description format. So we start out just kind of high level. What is the purpose of your position? What role do you serve and what job duties do you perform that allows your department, your division, your work group to provide services perhaps to the public? So think very high level for a moment. When somebody asks you what you do for a living, what's that elevator speech? Maybe 2 or 3 sentences to say, hey, here's what I do for the city. Here's my customers. So think kind of high level. If you're frontline supporting those that have direct interaction with the city, maybe you're back of house supporting those that do. Now, given the city size, you may also wear multiple hats, meaning you might perform in 2 very distinct different job classifications. Let's say for a moment that you're an equipment operator, but you are also a welder. So half the time you're out in the field operating specialized pieces of equipment for the maintenance of roads or curbs or drainage systems, and the other half of your time you're back in the shop making repairs to that equipment. Those might be 2 different jobs in the market. So if you want to tell us about job number 1, tell us about job number 2, you can do it all within this questionnaire. There are no character limits to each box. So please put that down there. And really where I'm going with that is if we need to, we can compare your position to more than one job out in the market. So I want to be careful about just looking at your job title. I want to know your job duties. I want to understand if you're wearing multiple hats. There's a little bit of a throwaway question also on my screenshot here, and that is, do you have peers out in the market? Do you get job bulletins? Do you get recruited from other agencies? What job titles start to make sense or start to match up with what you do? Maybe you have peers or coworkers in other cities say, I'm called a specialist over there, they're called a technician. So if you want to point us in the right direction in the market, otherwise you can leave this blank. We're not certainly asking you to do our work for us, but sometimes your job title might be a little bit generic or a little bit different in your city than it is in the city next door. The next page, both in the screenshot version as well as the Word version or the hard copy version, will be your least favorite page. It is blank. Remember, this follows a job description. So last page we started with a high-level summary. Here we're going to get into the body of a job description, bullet points, writing down what you do when you're at work. If there are tasks that you perform every day, I would say write them down on this page. If there are tasks that you perform less frequently, but you believe are important, write them down on this page. Just label them. So say, hey, daily, I greet customers, I answer questions, or I route phone calls and inquiries to the right parties, or I'm operating a piece of equipment for, applying, masking tape or, heated tape and paint on a road or on a traffic stop or on a sign, that kind of thing. Doesn't have to be great language, but if you want to look at your current job description, the city will make those available as well. What you'll see is probably 6 to 8, maybe 10 boxes. There's no limit there. Same with the paper copy. You can attach additional pages if you want to tell us about 6 different tasks, 16 different tasks. There's no real limit here. What we're trying to gain is an understanding of what you do while you're at work. And if you'd like to organize your thoughts from what you feel are either most important to least important, or most frequently performed to less frequently performed job duties, take that up, kind of as an option. Sometimes it helps to start on a separate piece of paper and write down everything that you do, then kind of organize your thoughts into either major categories, but 2 or 3 sentences for each major task that you perform is perfect. If we've successfully written down what we are doing at work, think about what you have to know and what you have to be good at. You have to have customer service skills, skill in meeting deadlines, resolving customer complaints, knowledge of how to safely set up a traffic diversion around a construction site. Also on my screenshot, you're going to start to see this gray banner follow us around. It says save and continue later. So you can click at any time if you enter some characters on any of these pages and you opt to save and continue later and you close your browser, our system will send you an email. That email will contain a link so that you can pick right back up where you left off. If you go back to that very first email that comes out from HR, that will take you back to the beginning, so don't panic. Our system will have captured any progress that you've made, any characters that you've entered. So once you get past the housekeeping and kind of that job summary, there's options for saving and continue later. Again, you'll get a new email, so go to the most recent email if you get interrupted or if you have to come back to this questionnaire at a later date. Are there any information sources also on this page? Maybe there's statutes or ordinances or codes that you have to follow. Certain things that you have to document if you are, working in utilities and you're certified to handle chemicals, but there's a very specific process to be safe with those. Are there any procedure manuals or guidelines that you have to follow when you do that? If, for example, you get promoted or you're ready to move on from the city and HR says, wait, we'd love to have your help in recruiting your replacement. What do you look for on someone's resume, job application that would suggest that someone from the outside could apply for this position, have a background that would allow them to learn how to perform these duties and responsibilities? So we're looking for your opinion. Again, is your job one that requires previous experience, a high school diploma, a 2-year degree, some specialized training? Does your position require licenses, certifications? Do you have to have those licenses on day one when you start with the city? Can you be on the job for a while, maybe 3 months or 6 months, and then you can attain one of those licenses or certifications? Also, what's cut off on my screenshot here, working environment and physical conditions. Are you working out of doors? Are you working around moving traffic, hazardous chemicals, infectious disease? Are we doing a lot of standing, lifting, climbing, bending, carrying, driving, repetitive motion like 10 key data entry or using hand tools? So there's some physical aspects and questions that we ask, simply so that if someone applies for this position for compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, do we need to be able to express that, hey, this position is physical, somebody needs to be able to physically perform these duties, or we need to come up with some way to make an accommodation so that somebody that can't meet those physical demands can perform these job duties. The last couple of sections, we switch gears. Again, there's an option to save and continue later. When you come to work, how specific are your work instructions? Is there somebody that greets you at the door every morning and gives you a checklist? Are you working in close proximity to your supervisor? Maybe you work out in the field and your supervisor or manager is back in an office. How specific or general are the work instructions? Do you get to decide what you're working on? Maybe if you're sitting at a desk all day and you're working on projects that take weeks or take months, you get to decide how to complete that project. So you can move around some priorities and deadlines. Maybe some of those are driven really by emergency scenarios where there's regular days and then there's drop everything if this happens, a severe weather event or an accident or something like that, or you're a first responder. Is there a time when you and your supervisor come back together to review your work? Are there significant decisions that your supervisor or manager expects you to make without clearing them? What comes up? Where's that decision line drawn where your supervisor or manager wants to be the one to make that decision? What are the most difficult or important decisions you're expected to make? Is there a liability to the city, to your coworkers, to the safety of the public associated with decisions that you are expected to make? So some decisions, what decisions require clearance, and what are the most difficult or important decisions that you make? Lastly, who do you come into contact with, both inside and outside the organization? Are you interacting with the public? Are you interacting with vendors, suppliers, contractors, citizens, residents, neighboring cities, the county, other law enforcement agencies? So inside and outside the city, who are you coming into contact with? We have one more empty box there if there's anything that we didn't think of or didn't ask about. If you are responsible for others, so it could be other employees, full-time or part-time, volunteers. If you sign off on the work that's being performed by contractors, tell us about that in this next page. If it doesn't apply, it'll go away. But if there are staff that you're responsible for, list out kind of the who and how many people you are responsible for. And then if you have any personnel related duties, part of hiring, training, discipline, that kind of thing, let us know what your responsibilities are, even if you don't have the final say. We get to the signature box. Make sure you type in your name. Sometimes if this isn't on a tablet, it's really hard to make a clear kind of signature with your mouse. But effectively, once you get to this page and you hit next, that questionnaire will take a couple of hours to render into a PDF. You will get an email with that PDF of your completed questionnaire. Whoever's listed as your supervisor or manager will get one as well. And they'll have the option to click on a link that says, hey, I want to add a comment or two, or yes, this is perfect. It represents duties, responsibilities. The only reason that we have a review is to ensure you didn't forget anything on this questionnaire. It's a lot of information, really kind of looking at things from a calendar year perspective. There may be some duties that are performed less frequently, but we want to make sure your job gets credit for all of those duties and responsibilities that might be assigned to your job. Overall, we're going to do most of our project activities, I would say in about 90 days is the goal. We're going to move fairly quickly as long as you all can move fairly quickly. Those questionnaires become super critical for us to make accurate job comparisons in the market, use that content for updating job descriptions, and ultimately recommending a pay range for each position. With that, I will stop the video. I will thank you in advance for reviewing a PAQ. Work with your supervisors and managers over the next couple of weeks to get one of those questionnaires completed.